Hello and welcome back to Together We Feel panel this week. We're a small panel today, but we are mighty. I've got my friend Rachel Lavin here today, and today's an open topic live. And I love these open topic lives because it really allows us to dive into what's happening today in our lives in the moment that's either supporting us or getting in the way of us living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. It is much later where I am, so I've had my coffee. I'm awake.
Rachel, thank goodness for us, is on the East Coast. Melissa here. I am on the West Coast, so it is 7 a.m. I've got my Venti Starbucks sitting next to me, and we are ready to roll. So, how are you? How are things? Because I think, like I said, today's open topic. There's a lot going on in the world. And I'm really learning how to, I've never been good at compartmentalizing things, but I'm really, I don't know if compartmentalizing is the right word, but I'm learning to still find my joy within the chaos. And that's been a process. So, but I feel like I'm starting to find some patterns that allow me to experience, not, a nuanced life where it's not just all chaos. I've got areas of calm and I know how to access them. How about you?
Yeah, I love that because you're right. I think I decided a while ago, after that whole experience where we were just separated from each other. And I think
Yeah.
that collectively, having to deal with the anger of that and the sadness of that and
Mhm.
all the things that I realized that my place in that part needed to come from kindness, right? I mean, we were
Mm,
all feeling that, but if
yeah.
we don't step back into our kindness, we're never going to get through it. And
Yeah.
I just want to be that person that I can see both sides. And it's interesting because some people don't like that. They're like,
Yeah.
you need to feel this way or that way, but there's no bigger picture. And
Yeah.
my brain doesn't work like that anymore. I'm not black and white. It's definitely, and I don't even like to call it gray. It's like hot pink for me. You know what I mean? I want to see the
Yeah.
world as a beautiful place because I think we've forgotten that this is a gift that we've been given.
Hmm.
And even though sometimes the struggle is real, I'm not saying that life does get hard, but to approach it as a lesson, right? It's trying to teach you something.
Yeah.
And we are not meant to be here to be miserable creatures. We are here
Right.
to be happy, to enjoy, to love, and that's where I'm going to come from. And no one's going to take that from me.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you have to do. You have to, because listen, as well as anyone, I get fired up about the things I care about. But if I don't sustain my energy, if I don't find places of joy, oh, there's Blanca just joined. We do have another friend coming on.
Yay!
Let's let her get the picture in and we'll have her join us. If you don't find places to fill your cup, faces of joy. So for instance, like last weekend, I not this just current weekend that we just came out of, but the weekend before that, we went over to the Monterey Peninsula where my sister-in-law lives, and we went whale watching and we're out on the ocean and just enjoyed the day. We had good food. We celebrated a 1 year anniversary with some friends where their music entertainment place had opened.
Oh,
We
cool.
found those places of joy. We came down this weekend. It's for a work trip, um, and we watched my brother-in-law coach his baseball team on Fridays. This is going to be his last year. He's going to retire. So we enjoyed that time with family. We took in we're in Long Beach, California right now. We've got work here this week, but we took in Long Beach and we 12,000 stepped our way through the best food and the best drinks and the most beautiful day. And to gear ourselves up, let's see here. Let's see if Blanca's ready. Hello, Blanca.
Hello. Hello. It's a little dark in here.
It's all right. That's the fun of figuring it out alive. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we are. But I can see your face in the shadows. Um, so welcome, welcome. We were just talking about the things we're doing to keep our energy up and find nuance in joy in the chaos of life. And so, Blanca and Rachel, have you guys met before? You been on a
No,
panel?
I
I don't
don't
think
think
you have.
so.
Blanca is my friend here in Fresno, and she and I met through the Fresno County Women's Chamber, and then we're also on the Gal Advisory Board, Gender and Leadership Group at Fresno State with the college students, mostly women, in the Craig School of Business. So we met that way. And Blanca's been on the panels with us. She is a photographer. She has a marketing background, a grants background. She's a newly licensed and certified doula. So she can help.
Ooh.
Yeah. So she's got all kinds of, and she's lived all over the world. She's got all kinds of wisdom she brings. And then my friend Rachel here is spent much of her life in the fitness industry as a coach and a guide. And she's spread her wings in that arena. She's had her own, lifetime battle with her body of getting to a place where she could love herself right where she was and know the value of movement and fueling your body in a healthy way, but that we all are built differently, not by the size you see on your Instagram photo or that whatever you culture is putting out there in front of us that day. And she wrote a book, Donut Diaries, about her story and to invite other women into loving themselves well. And she now has added to her many tools and resources that she offers. She goes into people's spaces and organizes their spaces. She organized my closet for me 3 weeks ago, and I'm still leaving my closet door because I'm so happy I can look in there and see what Rachel helped me do. So welcome to both of you today. You bring in your own, like each your own background. So I've been talking about what I do. So tell me, Rachel, what do you do? Like you were out, like you had a post last weekend of you and your boyfriend got out and really enjoyed some of the beauty where you are in South Carolina. But talk to me about other things you do. You are one of the greatest. I will get the most fun, supportive messages from Rachel, and they're just hilarious off the whim. Just always lifting other women up and always showing up. She has gone on every wild ride I've invited her on the last 2 years with me. She's just that. She's just that person, that friend, that cheerleader, that supporter. So talk to me about what you do to keep your energy where you want to live.
Absolutely. I think one of the most valuable lessons I learned at 40 when I was kind of coming into my self love and appreciation of life. And I just realized that that was going to be something that needed to be cultivated. And there was nothing wrong with finding outside resources that inspired me. And so I think it's so funny because my Instagram feed is like, affirmation, affirmation, puppies, puppies, affirmation, affirmation, and then kid, so I just really kind of realized that the more I invite positivity into my life and the more gratitude I invited into my life, it really does become who I am. And I always tell people that, do I have my moments where I get so mad at somebody running a red light in South Carolina? Of course I do. It's normal. But
Yeah.
do I let it ruin my whole day? No. Like that to me, like I figured out how not to have that emotion just run rampant and ruin my day or ruin my month or ruin my week. I
Yeah.
think it's so important for women to understand that yes, we're allowed to have emotions. I would never take that away from you, but do you want to look at life from a positive place and know that at the end of the day, you're still breathing and you had a great day and you have people that love you? Or do you want to say, I got a speeding ticket today, my whole life is ruined? I know
Yeah.
I'm being simplistic, but um it really does kind of come down to that, right? You have a choice. You have a choice
That's
to
it.
be happy or to be not happy. And no matter what comes at me, I really want to choose happiness, but it takes work. It really
Yeah.
does. And so by feeding into the positivity, it feels more authentic to who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what helps me. And then obviously just having women like you guys in my corner where I don't feel weird or ashamed about talking about stuff like this because you guys have done the work too. So that helps, when you have your circle that is also like-minded.
Yeah, I think that community piece, I think there's an interesting narrative right now of like, having nuance in your life and having and listening to people's stories is where the power is, because that takes away the judgment. You might not agree with everything they stand for, but if you know their story and you listen to them, you can at least track where it came from. But inviting that nuance of emotion in, inviting people around you that care about your wellness as much as you care about your wellness. I think that is really the key of and being a good listener. And I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking. I was recording with our friend Valerie Rivera. She was on in season 4 as a podcast guest, and I brought her back to be on again later this spring, early summer, because she's had some changes go on in the last couple of seasons. And we were talking about grief in particular, and the nuance of being able to walk through grief with and process it the way it needed to be, but not having it take over your whole life, because
Mm,
having that grief and walking out that loss doesn't mean there's not joy over here,
yeah.
that you're not enjoying, that there's not a growing season happening in your career or with your children or your partner or other friendships. But she's also done a masterful job of surrounding herself with women who are for her, who pour into her. So it's like, even as I was working through my own insecurities in life, I had myself surrounded with the women and voices I needed to help me as I continued to walk out where those things were rooted in, and were there to support me along the way. And so who you surround yourself with, I think is such a key component of this as well. All right, Blanca, my friend, you are a busy lady. You've got kiddos and in school. You were navigating spring break last week and also trying to show up helping your sister at a conference, and I mean, you had all these things juggling there. You have your partner, you have your family that's right there and present, and just a little bit of a chaotic world right now. So how do you fill your cup, find your peace and contentment in all that's happening right now?
Yes, it was a bit of a crazy week, but it was good. It's over. For me, it's really little things.
Mm,
It's getting myself 20 minutes to read. And of course,
mm,
what Rachel said, yes, all of that, I try to look at life with this, I guess, positivity glasses. And no, not everything's positive. And I do, have emotions and whatnot.
yeah.
but, but, in the daily life, what fills my cup is reading, because it's like a
Mm,
moment. My goal is, and I haven't been great at it this last month because of early morning appointments and whatnot, it's like I drop off the kids, come home, read for 20 minutes.
mm,
And then that's good. I'm ready for the next thing.
yeah.
Exercise,
Yeah.
exercise too, getting a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
But yeah, enjoying the nice cup of coffee. I
Yeah.
think finding the pleasure in the little things. So last week,
Mm,
after a very tiring, intense week with the conference and the spring break, well, the first day I was like, do I rest or do we go out and do something with the kids? So we
yeah.
went out to the mountains and we did a hike, and
Mm,
just seeing them, I think
mm,
just seeing them experience nature
yeah.
and just be happy in the wild,
Yeah.
I think that also fills my cup.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that nature piece, because all of us have spent some time in nature over the last week. I think that's so interesting. I've been on the by the ocean in a couple different places. You took your kids to the mountains. Rachel went out exploring in South Carolina. I don't think we're hearing that a lot, and it's a little bit of a buzzword right now, but I don't think we can underestimate the power of going outside, getting our feet in the ground, taking in the beauty of the creation that we have access to, breathing that in, shutting down your phones and your screens, and just slowing down the input. I mean, on Saturday, I very intentionally did not post, and we had a post that went out Saturday, and I just tended to it Sunday morning, even though it was Easter morning. I was, but I was like, no, I am present. I'm with family today, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside, and I'm going to enjoy this time. I had a great visit with our nephew that we hadn't seen in a while, who's been on some great adventures and is getting ready to go on more, and just seeing him as an adult. I mean, he's one of the youngest in the family, but he's a full grown man now. He's 24 years old. And he's just such a fun spirit. And so getting to catch up with him and just be in those present moments with people. And it was a beautiful day. And I'm like, I'm just going to be really, really present. So I think that making time for that to be present with the people you love is, I think, a very powerful piece too. And for Blanc, and that you made a good point. Sometimes there's a choice. I'm like, do we just stay in and rest today and crash? My husband, yesterday morning, I literally looked at it and said, because we'd gotten up very early on Saturday morning to come down here to try to miss the traffic and come down here. So and we were up very late that night after having a dinner that night. And so yesterday morning, I'm like, we're in this really beautiful hotel space close to the water. We can look out the window and see the bay and the Queen Mary and all the things. And I'm like, do we want to just order room service and stay in and have a bed day? He's like, I kind of thought, actually, I wanted to get out and put some steps and get to brunch somewhere. I'm like, okay, we can do that. It ended up being the greatest, most refreshing day. Like, it was we walked all over. We had the best food, the best drink. It was just lovely. We got all of our steps in, and I was like, that was one of the best, just fun days we've had in a while, just experiencing someplace. It was so refreshing and rejuvenating. So I think too, just understanding the different ways we can be invigorated. Rest doesn't always look like sitting down and doing nothing, although that's good too.
Take the time, and you need that. You need that sometimes.
You do, 100%. But it can also look like just those things that fill your soul. And for us, it was the sunshine, the ocean breeze, the steps, getting those steps in, and having great food and drink experiences, and just being together with each other, enjoying those moments together.
I agree. I think we're at that sweet spot here in South Carolina right now where it's beautiful, but it's not, the weather where you feel like you're going to die. So
reckless humid yet.
100 degrees every day. And so getting out in nature like right now is ideal. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. Just having that afternoon with my honey bunny, and it was just us exploring something new together, and then coming home and having lunch together. I agree with you. That also just fills your cup to, we all need that. However, what that looks like, filling your cup. But as most of the time, I think a lazy Sunday is the perfect, but that was nice too. So I agree with you on that.
It's those shared moments and the wonder, right? Living through somebody else's wonder and enjoyment.
Yeah, I love that. So Blanca, for you with the kiddos, how do you and your husband find time together to enjoy your time? Because that's tricky at this stage of life you're in.
All right, let me get back to you on that.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hard. You guys are in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, and so they're 5 and 8. Mm-hmm. And so they, we have the possibility of leaving them, or, sometimes what we'll do, because I said, well, it doesn't have to be a night thing. Okay. We'll go out during the day and go for lunch. Mm-hmm. Or I've started inviting him to do some errands with me when I have some Fridays where I'm working on some projects. I'm like, well, you want to talk along? And he'll discover with me. Okay, we had 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we had to pick up some donations for the conference. I'm like, come with me. And then we discovered that tortilla and chip factory downtown Fresno.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so that's the way right now. I think finding those moments throughout the day.
Yeah.
He would, of course. So I don't know. I'm more like I want to involve the kids in experiences. Like if we go on vacation, and then he was like, "Well, can we do one alone?" And I'm like, "Oh, but I want them to experience it." So that's where I'm at right now with this whole thing. So I try to find other ways to have alone moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the spontaneity of that too, because it's like you did this and then, oh, we found this little tortilla place that we didn't think we were going to find together. So also being open. And we talk about this all the time about those little things, those little moments that matter. It doesn't have to be the big things. It doesn't have to be a week away vacation. It can be those little moments of time. For a long time, Brady and I were the same way. Our things, we would meet for lunch or coffee, like in the middle of the day, because our evenings were packed with activities with the kids. So we had to shift for a while to those days during the day, like where we could get a lunch break at work or a coffee break, or one of us went in a little later or came home a little earlier. We had to, and sometimes it was last minute, like,
Right?
hey,
And,
yeah. And
you have to find moments in the daily life, daily routine where you can connect. I don't think it needs to be something grand.
Yeah, or planned out way in advance. Although, I mean, those can be nice too. Don't get me wrong, but being open to those things in the moment. We have gotten so, and I talk a lot about this. I talk about prioritizing our calendars and making sure the things we value are in them and that we're aligned with them. But don't be so married to your calendar that you don't leave room to move some things around, or just for that spontaneity to come up. I mean, sometimes there are random days where I work from home. So there'll be random days and that he might show up at home a little earlier than usual. And it'll be like, hey, do you want to run down here to me to the local brewery, or do you want to run to the store with me and grab this, or maybe, hey, do you have time? He'll call me and be like, hey, I'm here, can you walk over and meet me? And it wasn't in my calendar, it wasn't planned, but it's usually at that point late enough the day we're like, oh yeah, I can make a shift, or and making time in those spaces and places. So leaving room for the spontaneity too, because spontaneity is good for the soul. It's good to have those surprise, like, gosh, I didn't see that coming today, but that was great. Or gosh, I didn't realize we were going to be able to carve out that time and space. But finding those ways, we have to be able and willing and have a commitment level to finding those ways to connect with each other. And because also too, we're modeling that, especially when the kids are at home. I mean, the one thing that we did do well is we did carve out time for each other over the years. And our girls remember that. They're like, you guys were really intentional about that. I'm like, we knew we had to be. We had watched too many couples down that were ahead of us. There was one family in particular that they were kind of a mentor family to us. We were very close with them. And probably about 5 or 6 years into, it was about 7 or 8 years into our relationship, because we had all 3 girls by then. So I think we were 7 or 8 years into our relationship. I think our oldest was 5. So we had 5, 3, and 1 at that point. And their kids were just getting into middle school, late elementary school. And they had showed up for us in so many ways. And we really tried to use them as an example. And one day we were at an event, and the wife pulled me aside in a lobby in a hotel in Seattle. I'll never forget it. And let me know that they were separated and were divorcing. And I just about fell out of the chair. Like, I just wasn't ready for that in any way, shape, or form. And it just really reminded me of the importance of making space for each other through that time, and just really put that at the forefront of realization of, we can't take this relationship for granted, that we're just like, all right, see you in 10 years when the last one heads off to college. I mean, it has to be intentional time throughout, because so many times that you get to the point where the kids are out and you've grown apart. You don't have the same interest anymore. You've gone in directions that you haven't communicated about. And so all of a sudden you're like, and sometimes couples have a lot of fun getting to know each other again and it works out. And at other times it doesn't. And through nobody's one singular fault other than they just, they grew apart because they just didn't make the time to continue to invest in each other. Or they wanted different things. But there was a, because I want to be very careful with that, because sometimes relationships end and it's just the end of their season and it doesn't mean anybody did anything wrong. So I want to be very mindful of that, but also the intention, when we're in a relationship that we really want to invest in and want to be our lifetime relationship, especially with our partner, making that time and space and being open to the possibilities within it. And that goes for ourselves too. I mean, I think it's those little moments. It's the 20 minutes the Blanca takes to read and refresh and rejuvenate, finding that thing. I talk to women all the time about, that's why I'm so passionate about name those 5 things that nourish you and make sure those things are incorporated in your life so that you can be fresh for the day, whatever that day is asking of you, whatever your world is asking of you, whatever thing you're passionate about that you're fighting for, that you've got the energy for it, but you also step back and take a break from that thing. I mean, I will know in this work, I love this work that I do. I get to talk to amazing women all the time. I also know that some of the stories I run across have an emotional toll to them. So I know that I can, when it comes to recording podcasts for a season, I cannot do more than 3 a day, and 2 is better because I am drained. I mean, my husband will get home and I'll just be like, I'm just, he's like, you all right? I'm like, had some great conversations today. But because then, I want to be able to show up fresh and well for my guests as well. But I also know the toll it takes on me and the need to, like, all right, it's time to go out and sniff the orange blossoms or take a walk around the block or watch that new Netflix show that I've been wanting to binge, whatever it is, taking those time for those things, of it being intentional. And I used to think, and I've always been pretty good at spontaneous things are my favorite things. Like some of my best memories are those last minute spontaneous things we did.
You do touch on an interesting point, I think, is being aware. No matter what you're doing, is the awareness of what impact that's going to take on you.
Yeah.
Like what toll? Is it going to be good energy or negative? So you have to be aware, I think.
Yeah.
In touch with your body and emotions.
I totally agree with Blanca. Yeah. I think that us women who work with other people, it's important to have a skill set for yourself, like knowing how do I get my energy back. I organized for this gentleman, he's the sweetest man, on Friday, but he needed a lot more emotional support than he needed, for me to actually physically do something. But I just kind of know me now that I've been doing this a long time, that Friday night I did nothing that needed any kind of emotional, that I was able to give back to myself. Like you said, I made an easy dinner. I watched a movie. I went to bed early and woke up Saturday morning refreshed and felt like I could go do it again. But I think we as providers and empaths, we just push sometimes because we want to help everybody. But I have learned that is just impossible. And I know for a fact that if you don't have that good energy to put forth, people, they feel that too. And so they don't feel like the quality of your sessions or your conversations are valuable because you're not really putting forth your best self. So I agree with all the rest. Yeah. I love rest.
Yeah. It's that pain. Last week I was working away on something, getting emails out, setting up collaborations, scheduling recordings, making sure, and also making plans. I've got, 3 different public speaking. They're all virtual. They're all, none of, well, one I am traveling to. So sorry. I've got 3, 2 are virtual, 1's in person. So I've got 3 different like events, and so I've got to do some really mindful things to prepare for those. So in May, I am not recording in May. All of our panels are going to be live, whether they're predetermined topic or not. I am not recording any new episodes other than the first week of May. I do have a couple of things in there that I put in there a long time ago. But by and large, I'm focused on preparing properly for these events. And there's some content within that I need to prepare to have ready for it. So I'm very mindful of like, nope, if I'm going to show up here, well, I won't be doing this here. And that's okay. That's fine because I can wait and do it here. But I have to be very mindful of that. But even with that day, doing that planning, doing a lot of thinking, I got to a point about 2:00 in the afternoon where my body was just tensing up and it was full. And my capacity was, and I'm like, it's time for me to be done today. Yeah. And I had to really release that idea that I have to work until 5:00 every day, because I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you work for yourself, and there's many weekends that you're doing things. There's many evenings that you're responding to things, because my staff is all on the East Coast. I get text at 6 a.m. sometimes because they're, mostly not from Rachel, but I mean, they might need a question answered because that's the time they can work on that particular thing, because they're all either going to school or have other jobs. And so being like, if you're tired and your body's saying you're tired, then it's time to shut it down for the day. You're not, because whatever energy you continue to give to this thing is not going to be the energy you need. You're going to start getting irritable. Like, I did not sleep well on Friday night. My brain was just full of stuff. So apparently I didn't shut down soon enough. But so I knew Saturday morning I didn't sleep well. I need to be really mindful of my temperament today. Make sure I'm not snapping my husband's head off, or because I know, especially early in the morning, because I know that I am, a little more irritable right now. I used to not be mindful of that. And I would just snap until somebody said, all right, you're tired, take a breath. Now I'm like, okay, doesn't mean I do it right all the time. But I have more of a present mindfulness there than I used to, of where I am, where my tank is. And so watching that, knowing that things might get to me today that don't normally get to me because of where my tank is right now. So even when it's not going well, it's that mindfulness of where your tank is and what you've got to give and what you might be prone or more vulnerable to in the moment, I think is really important too, especially in relationships.
Self-awareness is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Blanca.
I'm just laughing, thinking, we might more mindfully snap away. We might
I did snap, and I know why, because I slept 3 hours last night. So, oh my gosh.
Sorry, yeah. Rachel, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, I was just saying it. I mean, that self-awareness that we gain as we learn more about ourselves, and that is such an interesting shift, because I used to be like that too, Melissa. I would just snap it because I was tired or hungry, or most of the time hungry. But to know that about myself now, and know when I'm feeling that way, it's like, guess what? I don't have to take that out on the person that's with me, because it's my issue. And being able to be more honest about it, like, my honey knows all the time. He's like, do you need to eat? And I'll be like, I do. Thank you.
Yes, my blood sugar is crashing right now.
Exactly.
That look, that eye roll I gave you is about that. It's not about you.
Exactly.
Well, and Blanca too, with kids, I think you're at that age right now where they're at that age where they're asking a lot of questions. They're very curious. They're high energy. So you've got to be really mindful of that too, and where your tank is when it comes to, because I can think of so many times that I'm like, oh, I really snapped at the kids. And I would go back. I was good about going back and apologizing later. Like, listen, I really lost my,
And you feel so bad when it's, yeah. And I do apologize.
Yeah.
Last time I did, my boy was like, why? I'm like, I told him. It's like, oh, okay. I think they appreciate that. I try to
Yeah.
be, because life can be hectic and takes a toll. So I try to be so present so as to realize that any emotion or the way I'm reacting to their behaviors, it's because of the way I'm feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so I try to, it's a lot of practice. You have to be so mindful of it, but I try to be almost neutral, like in those moments,
Yeah.
but a little lesson learned about self-care though this weekend when we were hiking by a waterfall. I was so worried about them not falling in that I missed a little wet spot and I slipped.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh, I need to look up about where I'm stepping. So I was like, this is a metaphor for this, isn't it? Like, okay,
Yeah.
like being concerned about our well-being and then looking out for the others. But
Yeah.
yeah, the little ones. I mean, that waterfall was going too fast. I was so concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a
everybody's fine.
That's a great, I really like, that's a really good metaphor, actually, because that is so much what we do as women. We're so busy minding everybody else that all of a sudden we're slipping and falling metaphorically because we haven't been paying attention to our own tank and our own needs because we've been minding everyone else. And, there's a space and place for that. But also, if you're not, it's just like the airplane metaphor. If you don't put your mask on first, you're not going to be able to help anybody else well. And that seems like, because as women of the messaging we've gotten, that feels backwards to us, but actually it's what we should have been taught from day one. If you take care of yourself well, then you are going to not only serve yourself and your health and well-being, you're going to be that person you want to be showing up for those other people. And they're going to remember you and connect with you in a way that you hope they will, rather than just getting the worn out, tired, irritable version of you. That means minding your own steps, your own safety, your own well-being, so that you can show up that way.
So that's why this conversation, it almost feels like you were like in my head this weekend. I was thinking about that and what that represented, and it's just the fall, right? Okay, whatever. I missed this, but I've been thinking about this topic. I was like, well, I missed it because I was not looking, because I was thinking of other people.
Yeah.
And then the whole husband thing, I'm like, I've been thinking about what I can do, to be a more present wife,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the little things that you do to fill your cup. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't miss those little moments, that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes here and there. It matters. And, Rachel, you were talking about too, sometimes we go into situations where we think we're going to be showing up one way, and it turns out the situation demands something else from us. So going into those situations with a filled cup, ready for whatever, if it does look different, is very important too.
Yeah, learning how to shift in this area of my wellness business is such a crucial gift that I'm working on every time. Every time I start with somebody new, really kind of being in the moment is something that, I remember not too long ago, not 13 years ago, I was not good at this. It was not something that I had worked on and strengthened, and now it's a value to me that I'm capable of this. And I really love that about my practice, that I can do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what I love about that is that we can continue to learn and grow. We can continue to evolve. So staying curious, staying open to changing possibilities, changing seasons, new ways that we can feed our souls. If the things that you're doing it right now don't feel like they're serving you anymore, get curious. Maybe things have shifted for you. So what nourished you 5, 10, 15 years ago doesn't nourish you anymore. But what does? Think about, what's that thing you wish you could do, or you wish you had time for. Okay, so what can you do to make time for that, or shift something instead of that thing you thought that was nourishing you that isn't anymore? Take that out of your calendar and replace it with this new possibility. So being open to that too, but yeah, kind of being ready for those things. But if we're taking care of ourselves well, then we've making that time to fill our cups, and we're taking in knowing that, okay, I'm going to go out there today and I'm not sure what I'm going to get, but I feel ready. I feel prepared. Or I got a crappy night's sleep. I'm not sure what I'm going to get today, but I need to stay extra aware. What can I do in the moment? I drank a lot of water Saturday because I'm like, I got to drink a lot of water. I had an energy bar with me in the car. I'm going to need this today. I did have an extra coffee. I also did that too. I don't normally do that, but so just like, okay, what can I do? It won't replace it, but what can I do to help, at least keep myself level and compensate a little bit again, so I can be present and enjoy or show up in that hard situation I didn't see coming mindfully in the ability to cope. And then also after the fact, okay, I need something a little different tonight. I'm going to need, yesterday morning, my husband and I stayed in bed till 10 o'clock. We never do that anymore. I mean, and for 20 years, we never did that, period, when the kids were at home. But she's like, you know what? We need this today. I'm not going to like, oh my gosh, we've got to get up. And then I was like, why do we have to get up? Because it was also like, our bodies needed that. So we were able, because we don't have kiddos at home anymore. We don't have grandkids yet. There was nobody jumping on the bed demanding our time. So seize those moments when you have them.
Is it okay if I ask you a question, Melissa? Because that story just triggered this amazing.
Yeah.
So our mental capacity to handle situations is what we feed it, right? So you could have gone all day and said, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And you repeat that and it becomes your truth. But you chose to be like, yeah, this is the reality. I didn't get enough sleep last night, but there's coffee, there's water, and there's an energy bar that are going to get me through this. And so you told yourself a different story, which I think is so valuable and such a wonderful thing that I wish people would kind of, focus on. Because if you are able to do that, you can really kind of honor where you're at, but get through the day. And I love that.
Yes. And I will tell you, I haven't always been there. Like so many of us, that is something I learned and shifted in myself, because I used to tend to run with the glass half empty and whatever the prevailing emotion. And then everybody else would have to hear around me about, I am so tired. I only got 3 hours of sleep. I don't have much capacity today. Don't test me. That would have been like literally like I was still letting them know, but it was with a way different energy. There was no like, okay, what can I do in this moment? I was just like, nope, this is where I'm at, and you're all stuck with me in it. But that just was not, nobody won, including myself in that situation. And I was robbing myself of living that day in a way that was possible. And because I was not allowing room for the nuance of what I could still create out of this. I used to be one where I just ran with the predominant emotion that I woke up with that day. And that's what ruled the day. And everything else got pushed to the side, stuffed, ignored, whatever. And if anybody else tried, like my husband at those times would be like, well, what about this? No. I just wasn't open to it. And that wasn't serving me. And I got to my late 40s and I woke up one day, I'm like, my life is not what it should be, what it looks like on paper. I should be much more content. I should have much more peace. This is not adding up. So what is it that I need to shift so that I can start feeling like I'm living my life the way I want to feel versus where I'm at right now. And I'm still in process with that, but that was the getting point of just this realization. And it came from my daughters were all in their 20s by that point. Well, maybe Courtney wasn't quite 20 yet, but they were all either in college or just out of college. And they were they learned from what they saw from us, good and bad. They learned both. They see all the things. And they had taken a different route and a little more like their dad's route of cup half full rather than half empty. But then I'm like, there's more to it than that. And there's some other inner work I need to do, healing and packing, that I need to do so that I can get to that space organically. Because if I would have done it from where I was at that point, it would have been forced and it wouldn't have been natural. So I knew I had to do the deeper digging and work. So now I'm able to show up there organically because I have done that. So I know sometimes when we talk about doing that inner healing and work, it sounds hard. It's really easy to get comfortable rather than stay curious about why you're where you're at. But I promise you that the quality of your life and your relationships and how you see the world. And like I said, there's a lot of things I'm fired up about right now. But because I'm able to do these things in other areas of my life, to take care of myself, to fill my cup, to be present, to have meaningful relationships, I have the energy I need to put into those things that I am so passionate about. So, but it also has a lot to do with that inner work you're able to do to help yourself get there. Yeah.
You make me think of another thing I've been thinking. You know how we deal with the younger generations and whatnot, and we're interested in sharing our learned experiences so that they don't have to go through all the pain and, getting there. And I wonder, do they also have to go through it, of course, on their own? But then you also said something interesting, true, which is they also learn from what they see. So I guess it is okay to share, and then they take it or not, and then, right?
And I think it's a both and. I mean, I think we can't coddle them to the point that they don't know how to solve a problem or recover from a loss or a difficulty or a pain. But those things that we know didn't serve us, like those things that were not healthy, we can also share those things and like, listen, let me tell you right now, if you approach it this way with this framework, rather than how I went, you're going to save life is going to throw you enough curveballs as it is. You can get ahead of this using this framework, this pattern of thinking, making these decisions so that you'll be more ready for those curveballs in a healthy way rather than making these mistakes that
right.
So I think it's
sharing the tools. It's sharing the tools, and then they'll choose how to use it, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Well, we could talk about this all day, as always. But are there any last thoughts you want to share with our ladies out here today, our listeners, our people, on how, as we wrap up, where we really led to is like how we fill ourselves up and keep ourselves present and ready for whatever the day and the world has for us. Any last thoughts for people as we leave today? Rachel, I'll have you go first.
Okay, thank you. I just would say that mind shift change is possible in every single person. You just have to do the work. I mean, that's kind of my philosophy, right? Nothing is going to change if you don't put in the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Blanca?
Just recap on the awareness, being aware of how you're feeling emotionally and physically, and, watch your step before you start watching other people's steps.
Yes, I think that's such a great metaphor. Take that metaphor with you today. That's the best and that comes from so many times our best metaphors come from our own realizations of like, oh, wait a minute. There's something bigger messaging here. All right. Thank you so much to Rachel Lavin and Blanca Madrigal for being here with me today on this episode of Together We Feel. We hope this gave you some ideas and things to think about. Excuse me. As we're really mindful of taking care of ourselves well to be ready for whatever the day has for us. Thanks so much for joining us and have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Blanca.
Nice to meet you.